So we've all been through a lot to be here today as people, as human beings, as humans being, as spiritual beings. And there's a quote I love by Pierre Desjardins that goes, "We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience." And that resonates so much with me. In life, in relationships, personally, professionally, there will be struggles. Our relationship with ourselves, with others, with family, friends. We will be challenged. There will be pain. There will be struggle. But if we understand that those struggles are built into our lives on purpose to help shape who we're supposed to be, everything changes. There's a beautiful quote I love by an ancient Japanese philosopher that goes, "Barns burnt down, now I can see the moon." You see, when life blows up in our face, which it will at some point in your life if you live long enough, you're left with truth. And the truth is beautiful if we're willing to look at it. And so I've learned to look at my struggles as little moments of truth, little light bulbs of illumination along the way, and using those things to create meaning in our existence, to be able to help someone else on their path with their struggle, or to even just make sense of your own. So I've got a few stories for you guys today, personal stories. I hope you don't mind. My first story is a very personal and scary one. I was about 23 years old, and I was working in retail to put myself through school. And I got a call one morning from my dermatologist. I had been to see her about 2 weeks earlier for a biopsy. And she said, "Drop what you're doing and drive yourself to the hospital. We're ready for you in surgery." With melanoma, skin cancer, there is no in between. You either make it or you don't. And so that day, that drive to the hospital, alone in my car, was one of the biggest light bulb moments in my life. The thoughts that went through my head were, what is all of this for? What does it mean? Why am I doing this? Why am I here? And what am I doing with this one precious life? And were the choices I was making me happy? You know, what did I want to do with my life? Did I want to have kids? Did I not want to have kids? What did I want to do for a career? How was I going to spend my time, my days? Who was I going to spend it with? Who did I want to love? How did I want to feel at the end of the day? How can I give back? How can I serve? Those were the questions that started going through my head, and that was where you really see the difference between until you're actually pushed in the direction of real struggle, pain, challenge, you don't grow. Those are the moments that actually shape us and create us, because our struggles are there for us. They don't happen to us, they happen for us. And these things, if we let them, will help sculpt our best selves. And nobody warns you about the mourning and grief that's involved in growth, right? We're taught, oh, grow, it's going to be amazing for you. But it's like, I look at my 7-year-old daughter who complains about, walking home from school, and I'm like, okay, just suck it up and walk. Meanwhile, she's actually growing and her limbs literally hurt. So that's a very real example of it. But these things that happen in our lives are doing the same things for us. They're allowing us to grow if we're able to look at them that way. My second story is actually about my youngest, Berkeley. I have two very sassy, very silly, hilarious little girls, and they really, as cliche as it is to say, are life's greatest teachers. Winslow is from my first marriage and only marriage, and Berkeley was, I like to call her, a little gift from the universe. She was unexpected, but definitely with every cell in my body, the moment I found out about her, I was like, that baby's mine. So, a little bit of panic, yes, right? But I knew it was that deep kind of knowing that she belonged to me, and it was truly a gift from the universe to have her. But I will tell you, it was struggle. I went through pregnancy completely alone. I delivered a baby with some of my best friends by my side, but alone in the sense that, society will tell you. I went through 2 years of debilitating postpartum depression, following her birth. There were moments when I doubted myself. There were moments when I was like, am I doing this right? Am I doing it forwards, backwards, upside down? I don't know. I didn't sleep for the first 5 months of her life. So you can imagine what that kind of sleep deprivation compounded adds up to over time. I fell down the stairs at like 1:30 in the morning a couple nights in a row just trying to get to her. It was crazy, but I will tell you, it was so incredible having this beautiful little human look at you and know that you're doing everything in your power to help shape their little life, and to show them by example that, hey, these things will not break you. They will create you if you let them. And so with Winslow, I say I found my greatest strength, and with Berkeley, I found my greatest weakness. But both girls helped shape who I am today, and both are powerful in their own way. So what do you make of everything? We all have our own unique struggles, but the cool thing about struggle, if you'll look at it this way, is resistance is built into each of our lives and packaged differently for every single one of us. Your struggle will not be the same as mine, will not be the same as the next person's. But what's interesting is, even though it's so isolating and dark and painful in those moments, it's the biggest connector if we're willing to talk about it, if we're willing to be able to tell the next person, hey, you know what? It's okay if you let it shape you. When you're going through whatever it is you're going through, and it might be loss, it might be grief, it might be something fell apart in your business, it might be something in your family and your relationships, it might be your health, it might be your mental health or your physical health, whatever it is, understand that this is being done for you, not to you. And when we're able to look at struggle through that lens, we get freedom. And freedom is choices. We have the ability to choose at any moment what we're feeling and how we're processing something and how we're going to use it. So what if everything you're going through right now is preparing you for exactly what you've asked for? Would it be worth it? I think so. Steve Jobs famously said in his Stanford commencement speech that we can only connect the dots looking back. You can't connect them looking forward. So if we look back at some of the things that seemed super difficult in the moment and see how they've shaped the rest of our life, I think for the most part we could agree we wouldn't want to erase that experience. But that's the tricky thing about struggle. If we were warned in advance that it was coming, nobody would voluntarily go through it, right? We'd all backpedal or try to find the easier, more comfortable route. But there's no growth in that, right? Struggle, most of the time, equals growth. That's what I found anyway. So I've got a list of all my awesome failures for you guys. I'll go through it. This is just the highlights reel. There's lots more underneath it. I have been divorced. I came from a family of divorce. I never finished university. I moved out at 17. I've lived on my own. I've moved back home with my mom 3 times. You're welcome, Mom. I had a child alone. I've had and beat cancer. I have loved myself. I've hated myself. I have completely lost myself, found myself. Hey, I'm right here. I've been healthy. I've been super unhealthy. And my advice to you is this: be open. That's it. Just be open. Be open to life and everything she has in store for you. Because the truth is, if we're able to approach it from a lens of opportunity, of potential for growth, we're much more willing to go through the things that will transform us, right? Life is not trying to take you down. She's trying to create something of you. Pressure makes diamonds. So we're humans, we all have the same fight or flight hardwired response. So how can you tell if your struggles are working for you or against you? So there's 2 things that I would like you to pay attention to the next time something feels difficult or feels painful or feels challenging on any scale for you. Number 1 is, do I feel like a victim? We can all relate to that, right? And number 2 is, am I feeling helpless right now in this moment? So those 2 things are a really great way to pay attention to, hey, is this the fight or flight response, or is this me being mindful about how I can use this for something better? And then there's 3 wonderful things that I've learned when you're in the mud, when you're in like the worst of the struggle, that you can do to help keep your mind present and help move you through it with a little bit of grace and a little bit of ease. I won't promise you it's going to be easy, but I promise you it will be worth it. So number one, gratitude, because our minds are not able to carry the opposing emotions of being grateful and being a victim at the same time. We just cannot literally do that. Gratitude changes everything. Even if you wake up in the morning and you can find 1, 2, maybe 3 things that you're grateful for, it might be small on the worst of days. But I promise you, if you look for something to be grateful for, you will find it. Number 2 is joy. Joy is felt beauty, if you could put like an emotion to it. And joy is always there, ever present, waiting patiently for you, even when happiness may not be. Joy is always there. Little light bulbs, right, of illumination. We talked about that. Little light bulbs of illumination in sometimes the darkest of spaces in your life. And then number 3 is nothing. Now, I know that sounds counterintuitive, but literally, do nothing. If you cannot quiet your mind and listen to your inner voice, you won't be able to do anything significant, especially with the pain and struggle that you're going through. So practice being able to do nothing. Meditate, go for a walk in nature, sit quietly by yourself. Sometimes we're scared of what will come up with our internal dialogue, what comes up in our heads. But I promise you, if you're able to give yourself, your mind, your soul, that space, your heart will speak to you. And that's how you know, because even in the moments of your deepest, worst pain and worst struggle, your heart will always know if you're willing to listen to it. That's how I've known in these crazy moments where life hits you over the head with a frying pan and you're like, okay, I'm paying attention now. It took that for me to get there sometimes. But when you listen and you quiet your mind, your heart will always, always guide you in the right way. And I've also found that a mentor of mine once told me that whether you think you can or think you can't, you're probably right. And then another quote that I absolutely love is that the people who tell you you can't and the people who tell you you won't are usually the ones that are most afraid that you will. I'd like to leave you with a poem by one of my most favorite writers, Danielle Laporte. Give it your all, give it away. Your desires are being held in the hands of the cosmos with incredibly sturdy care. Life is not testing you, she's rooting for you. And finally, let your struggle set you free. Thank you.